Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. Know your planets, know yourself, interchangeable. Right. Okay, let's dive straight into it. What we need to do is, oh God, if you've not had enough already, we need to do another deep dive into Trump's chart, or as you know, as I referred to him as Duck L'Orange. Yeah, Duck L'Orange. Let me just move my camera a little bit over here. And because now, why am I doing this? Now, many of you who are, who subscribe to my channel and all that stuff, you also get notifications when I post stuff on the community. And many of you will know, and actually I've had some amazing feedback, where I posted about Trump's, I posted an image of Trump's chart, didn't I? With a written description of what is going on and all the energies and all of this kind of stuff. Now, why did I do that? It was and this is the said chart here. This is it here. So you guys would have seen the scan of this chart, because I predicted, as all of you know, ad nauseum, I said once October starts, or there or thereabouts, then things would really start getting bad for Duck L'Orange, which of course has proved to be true. And as we can see, literally, as it's got closer to October, back end of September, now we're in October, and all sorts of hellishness has started to kind of become unleashed in his chart. Now, one of the reasons why I'm making this video is because many of you wrote to me to say, well, look, a certain astrologer from Texas and has said, look, maybe, well, quite strongly, that potentially Trump could win, could turn things around, particularly sort of like pretty much a day before the election. And this has perturbed and maybe disturbed quite a lot of you. Now, this astrologer, I think we all know who this astrologer is, and I must say as well, I've learned a tremendous amount from this astrologer, because irrespective of what a particular astrologer's personal politics or leanings may be, at the end of the day, it's the stars that speak. But every astrologer has their own gifts and their own talents, and they have their own interpretations on how they read charts as well, based on their experience. So I wanted to kind of, in a way, have a more in-depth look and at Trump's chart, to explain how said person came to their conclusion, which I also understand, from the perspective of the chart. I can understand, because there are some remarkable things, but I'm also going to give my sixpence worth of how I think it will actually pan out. And in the end, we'll just have to see who's correct. Now, as you know, Vedic astrology takes into account the precession of the equinoxes, the movement of the stars, and the stars move backwards by 1 degree approximately every 72 years, which means over long periods of time, the stars move backwards in the sky. All of the signs, all the positions, all the positions move backwards, and planets that were previously in certain signs in Western tropical then move backwards in Vedic astrology. We divide up the sky into equal sections of 30 degrees. So 12 times, there's 12 signs of the zodiac. 12 times 30 equals 360, and that gives you the whole sky. Due to precession, which is a real phenomena of science, physics, it's just science. You can ask NASA about it. Precession is where the constellations, in terms of our vantage point on Earth, are moving backwards in the sky. And each, shall we say, constellation has approximately 2,000 years or so in ascendancy, where it will rise and it will fall, and the next sign will come along. And when you join all of that together, it's approximately 24,000 years to complete the whole cycle. So these are great ways of measuring time. Now, of course, Western astrology still works, but it works in a different It works in a different way. And they use different techniques. However, the ratios and the distances between the planets will be the same, although the signs will be different. Now, many of you, many, obviously I've had so many consultations now, so many clients. And what I describe it is what happens for clients that come to me, or I would imagine most Vedic astrologers, but I describe it as Cinderella's slipper, because that is where the person and the chart actually fit. But I also don't just read that person's chart, I read their family as well: mother, father, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, bosses, you know, etc. All of this stuff, relationships and all these things. Just moving the camera again. Too complicated to explain, but there are many different ways to get there in Vedic astrology, and of course likewise Western astrology as well. I always say this: if the astrologer is truly talented, if they are gifted, they will arrive either at the same or similar conclusions, but there are different ways of getting there. Okay, so in terms of just what is my perspective on Trump becoming president again, what I was saying, what I've said for ages, is that it would take a miracle, and I mean it, a miracle. Miracles normally come from God, and I think it's fair to suggest that Duck Larange's karmic credit with God or Jesus is probably not that great. Yeah. There's a lot of karma that man has built up. He's built up a lot of karma. Planets are people, but planets are, as I'm always saying to my clients, but I need to say it more, planets are people. But they also represent concrete manifestations in our lives. And when planets move through certain signs and certain houses relative to the natal chart, it makes a big impact. And certain planets make bigger impacts on certain signs more so than others. So to give you an example, when it comes to Cancer ascendants and Leo ascendants, planet Saturn, which is challenging anyway, can be particularly difficult. Yeah, it can be very difficult. He's a first-rate malefic, planet of karma. But not only that, it's the houses that he rules is. Now, for every Cancer ascendant, so if I point over here to Cancer now, I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see the details of Trump's chart. But I like to have the big print out as well. He's actually got a stellium here in Cancer. He's got 3 planets in Cancer. Now, what you've got to understand is that stelliums, or when planets are in houses, it means emphasis. The more planets in a house, the more emphasis there is. A stellium is 3 or more planets in one house. Some stipulate that it's 4, but what I've found is 3 is plenty enough. Yeah. So you'll see here that Duck Larange has got Saturn, Venus, and Pluto in the sign of Cancer. So it means he has a lot of Cancerian energy. And he's also got another stellium here. He's got Sun, Rahu, and Uranus in Taurus. So he has a lot of Taurian earth energy as well. Now, for those of you that are tropical Western, you'll be crying out and you'll be going, Trump's a Gemini in Western. But in Vedic astrology, the sun is at 29 degrees 49 minutes. So it's literally on the cusp of going from Taurus to Gemini. So really his sun, I would say, is almost like a blend of the two, but it's still technically Taurus. And when you think about the shadow of Taurus, now what does Taurus deal with in general? It deals with food, money, resources, values, tangible assets, all of that stuff. Self-value as well, family values. And you might be saying Trump doesn't have any family values. Well, he's got a certain way of looking at the world, hasn't he? But when we think of what is the shadow of Taurus, the shadow of Taurus is excess in general. Taurus can also be too libidinous, yeah, which means can be too sensual, too much in the sex drive and all of that kind of stuff, too hands-on. Think about that. But Part of it, the shadow of Taurus as well, is being too materialistic, far too materialistic. This is part of the shadow of Taurus. Every sign has its pros and its cons. When I mention those kind of vices, does it not make more sense that, oh, maybe the sun sign, right, is Taurus? But the most important thing to understand is that he is a Leo rising, not Virgo, yeah, as he would be in Western astrology. Mind you, it's on the cusp. But really and truly, does Dr. Larange come across as the saintly virgin to you? Right. Probably not. Yeah. He's much more like what? A Leo. But not only that, he's got Mars in the first house, which is what? The planet of war, conflict, arguments, fighting, conjunct the star Regulus, which goes from 4 to 6 degrees of sidereal Leo. His Mars is at 3 degrees 40 minutes of Leo, tightly conjunct his ascendant, which is at 6 degrees 42 minutes of Leo. And the star Regulus goes from 4 to 6 degrees of sidereal Leo, and it means the king, yeah, or the little king. But either way, that's what it represents, kinship. So it deals with leaders. Let's not forget, Joe Biden also has a planet conjunct Regulus as well. I think it's his K2. Is it his K2? Let's see if I've got Joe Biden's chart here. Check myself. Oh, crikey. You just have to take my word for it. But it's definitely one of the... Biden's got a planet at 7 degrees of sidereal Leo, which is also conjunct the star. I count an orb. You can count an orb of 5 degrees, but an orb of 3 degrees either side is a close hit. So that means that Dr. Larange has his ascendant and Mars both conjunct that star. What we have to understand is the royal stars are very powerful. The royal stars are Aldebaran, which is in Taurus, which is the star of spring. And it's also referred to, I think, if I remember, yeah, oh, one minute. Oh God, I can't remember. I was gonna look, it's the star of spring. I can't remember the direction. Here, because Regulus should be the star of the north. Anyway, he's the star of summer. Then you've got Antares, which is the star of autumn, yeah, which is in Scorpio. And then you've got Fomalhaut, which is the star of winter, which actually, yeah, should be the star of the south. And then Aldebaran should be the rising sun in the east, and this one should be the west. Don't quote me on that. But I think it's in that order. I want to kind of check the board behind me. Let me actually just check the board behind me because I can't see it without my glasses. I've got it literally up on the board behind me. Anyway, the whole point is they are royal stars and they are very, very powerful. This is part of the reason why Dr. Larange has been so Teflon. Yeah. So Teflon. There's other stuff in his chart, but let me tell you that Regulus really helps a lot. Now, what we also need to understand is Jack Smith has planets conjunct 2 royal stars. Yeah, because you can also have the conjunction and the opposition. He's got 2 royal stars conjunct. He's got Aldebaran and he's got Antares. So obviously that's a formidable opponent. However, when you have Mars, Regulus is said to have the energy of Jupiter and Mars. So anyone with their Jupiter conjunct Regulus, like yours truly, or Mars, as in Dr. Larange or anyone else who's got that same configuration, it does power up. That planet does get extra power. It is said to get 10 times the power. This is part of the reason why it's Dr. Larange has managed to avoid capture, jail, prosecution, everything, because everything is just bouncing off. Because here you've got Mars acting like the warrior king in a way. Think of all of those, those NFTs, those artworks that he made. What does he depict himself as? As what? The king. Everyone, those that are really into Duck Larange, what they're calling him, the king, the Messiah. Yeah. But a big part of that is because of his moon K2 combination. But his moon is in the 13th sign of the zodiac called Ophiuchus, which sits towards the end of Scorpio and at the very beginning of Sagittarius, and it is known as the serpent priest or priestess. It means a person has the ability to seduce. Well, the positive iteration of it is the healer. Yeah, the one that comes forth and heals and, uses magic in the right way, shall we say. However, the shadow of this can be literally the snake charmer, the cult leader. Trump has got his moon right there in Ophiuchus. This is part of the reason why he's so effective. And I keep repeating, I know everyone says, oh, he's stupid, he's blah, 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 blah. He is what I would call crude. His methods are not necessarily sophisticated, but he has reptilian cunning. And I've always said, and I will say it again, and a lot of people are scratching their heads as why a lot of people still like Trump. And the reason why, from my perspective, that so many people are still with him is because of seduction. Seduction. He is very seductive to a lot of people. Part of the seduction or the appeal, it can be sometimes that victimhood that people feel, which he always does, and they feel a kinship there. The other one, of course, is grievance as well for people that have felt left behind, etc., and stuff like that. He can take it on there. But another big part of the seduction is those that want the tax breaks. Don't forget that, guys. The tax breaks. You all know, particularly if you're watching from the United States, how powerful an incentive that is and how many people are along with the ride just for that. So that's part of the seduction. And Duck Larange understands these things. He's not sophisticated, but I would say, look here, this is where the cerebral cortex lives, the front part of the brain. This part came last. This is where rationale, reason, self-restraint lives. That's why when people get head injuries here to this part of their head, they can have violent outbursts and completely act out and do weird stuff. This is also part of the brain that gets knocked out with drink and drugs. What do people do when they get very drunk or high on drugs? They often what? Misbehave. For me, Duck Larange is all amygdala. Amygdala, and that's the old brain, what they refer to as the reptilian brain, which sits around here like a tangerine. I think it's around about that size at the base of the brain, at the top of the spinal column. This part of the brain is all about instinct, base drives, survival at all costs. This is the part of you, say, like, for example, if you fell front down in water, or if someone tried to put you on water, you'll fight, and that instinctively it will take over. This part of the brain is extraordinarily powerful, and it affects the subconscious a great deal. I remember seeing documentaries about certain brands that are very successful, shall we say, and they've been able to find ways to actually get into the amygdala. Once you are in there, it's very, very hard to get it out, because this is where automatic reaction and learning happens. It's all about survival. Duck Larange, Trump is an amygdala type politician. And this is also very much where the GOP go. It's all about what? Fight or flight, survival. They're doing this, or we're going to do that, blah, 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 tear it down. If you don't fight, you're not going to have a country anymore. Yeah, sound familiar? It's very compelling, and it is very coercive And once a person is in there, or a brand is in there, or an ideology is in there, it's very hard to get out. This is part of the reason why no matter what is going on, there will still be the diehard or the rusted on, as Lena would say, that will still go there to the ends of the earth. That's how powerful it is. It's not about rational thought. Democrats, if you think, like to argue from here. They argue from the cerebral cortex. They make intellectual arguments about things, which people can either yay or nay. When you argue from the amygdala, that is gut wrenching. That's visceral stuff, which is irrational. It's about survival. So I just wanted to just put my sixpence worth in there on that. And I hope that's giving you some insights as well, because I think it is important to describe Trump accurately, because many underestimate him, and you cannot ever underestimate anyone who has a planet, particularly a powerful planet, conjunct a royal star. It doesn't mean good or bad. It just means influential. It means powerful. And you've got to remember, for Dr. Orange, this is souped up 10 times, because Mars has the energy, or Regulus has the energy of Jupiter and Mars combined. So this is very powerful, and it's in the first house. However, just because he has that doesn't mean that he's invincible. And let's not forget, Jack Smith has 2 royal stars. Yeah, so he's pretty tough himself. Anyway, so let's get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty about the prediction that was made of, you know, Trump basically rising to the presidency. Now, what we've got to understand is this person who made that, even they shrugged. They were like, oh, well, we'll have to see. But I can understand why they got there. Now, what's happening, I need to describe the Vimsatori Mahadasha sequence. And this is when a planet takes a dominant influence in one's life for a set period of time. Pardon me. So in a way, it's like, the way I describe it is, before we're born, we enter an esoteric car park, as it were, that is filled with 9 cars, each one belonging to a planet. The 9 traditional grahas of Vedic astrology. So that's Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. They're the embodied planets. Now we know the Sun is a star and the Moon is a satellite, but we still call them planets. Then onto that, you add Rahu and Ketu. Rahu, north node of the Moon, Ketu, south node of the Moon, which makes 9 altogether. I'm a neo-Vedic astrologer, much like the person in Texas as well, and we count the outer planets. One of the main reasons why I personally count the outer planets, and which are Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and I also include Chiron and Ceres. Why? Because they're too important to leave out. They give a lot of the flavor and the spice of the stories. They're the ones that add the secret sauce to a person's chart. And if you're not sure, just ask my clients. But to give you an example again with Dr. Ranj, Sun in Taurus, Rahu there. Remember, he was born on an eclipse. Dr. Ranj was born on an eclipse. And eclipse, the Rahu and Ketu, the nodes of the moon, are also known as the kingmakers. Yeah. Also, he was born with Kala Sarpa Yoga, which means time serpent yoga, and it's when all of the planets are on one side of the nodes of the moon. So if they're with the nodes and all on one side, that is Kala Sarpa Yoga, time serpent yoga, which means great falls and great ups and great falls and great ups and great falls. I think Dr. Orange is probably, yeah, on a falling phase here. Well, he's getting on in years now. Whether or not he can bounce back up is another question. Yeah, like I said, it would take a miracle. So we see here with all of this regular stuff and everything like that. But the most important thing is in his 10th house, which is name and fame. Yeah, name and fame. The Sun is the chart ruler, and wherever the chart ruler goes shows where the emphasis is. So the Sun, because he's Leo rising, The sun rules the chart. The sun goes to the 10th house of career, and it's in the sign of Taurus. So this is what? Name and fame and reputation. He's been helped there by the sun. Remember as well that Mars is also conjunct Regulus. But the unusual part here is Uranus. In traditional Vedic astrology, that would not be counted. The ancients knew that it was there, but they're not part of the traditional canon. However, Uranus is an incredibly powerful planet because Uranus deals with mavericks, eccentrics, people that are strange, inventiveness. It can do with sudden shocks and surprises, innovation, even genius. Now, I'm not saying that he's a genius, but isn't it interesting that he has referred to himself as a stable genius? Do you remember that? Yeah. But here, what it shows is it shows the eccentricity and the unusual maverick nature of Duc Larange, which a lot of people find appealing because he's not what the convention. He's like a political hand grenade that was thrown into the world of politics by a disgruntled electorate who wanted people to wake up and realize that they've been left behind and maligned. Yeah. So does that not make sense? Yeah. Uranus, Rahu eclipsing the sun in the 10th house. It also shows as well that the father is extreme. The father represents, the sun represents the father or the physical body of the father. Jupiter is secondary characteristics, but it can be shown here that the father is extreme, unusual, and eccentric. And we all know, pretty much according to Mary Trump, that Trump's father was what? Sociopath. Yeah. Still helped him out though. Remember, Taurus is finance. So it also shows, financial support from the father as well. But it can mean that the father can be materialistic and only valuing his child, in this case Donald Trump, but maybe the others, for what they're materially worth. That can be the shadow of that in Taurus. But nonetheless, wealthy and obviously helped Duc Larange out. And Trump said, he only got a small loan of $1 million from his father. Even if that were true, I mean, that's still ridiculous. It was multiple millions, but small loan of $1 million. Oh, come on. We all know that the father bankrolled him and got him out of bankruptcy how many times? But anyway, I digress. So what the other astrologer was saying, who has fabulous hair, by the way, I mean, I'm sure we can all agree on that. May have burned a hole in the ozone layer somewhere, but that hair is fabulous. Anyway, so when we look here, what we need to understand, what is being activated in Trump's chart now, and how does it all link together? So what I'm going to do is, let me share my screen with you, because this is where I want it to be really accurate. So let's just do share screen. And then I'll do not Chrome tab. Window. Is it window? Is that the one I want? No. I think it's entire screen. Click on that. I'm going to share. And then that should do its thing. And then I'm going to go up here. And let's get Duc Larange's chart up. There we go. Should be able to see this, but I just want to wriggle it a little bit. There we are, just so that I can see myself, make sure that my head is straight, all of that stuff. Arit. So here is the chart of Duc Larange. Everything I described. Rising sign, 6 degrees, 51 minutes of sidereal Leo, conjunct with Mars, tightly conjunct the ascendant, which is all tightly conjunct the star Regulus, already explained. Now, what we need to look at here, we need to look at the Dasha sequence. So remember, like I said, it means depending on where, I didn't say this part, depending where the moon is in the sky, which nakshatra is through, she is through either the beginning, middle, or end, decides that whole sequence, because each nakshatra, each star cluster has a sub-ruling planet. Wherever the moon is like the valet who puts you in the back seat of a car. It could be another planet's car. It could be her own car if she's going through her own nakshatra. And then you are driven along for a set period of time. So, for example, Trump is now in his Jupiter Mahadasha sequence, which means his soul is in the back seat of Jupiter's car. And that is a journey that lasts for 16 years. However, Jupiter does not always drive his car for the full duration. When the Dasha sequence starts, that planet is always driving. However, what will happen is after a certain period of time, that planet gets out and another planet starts driving the car. And this is called the sub period or the bhukti. Yeah. So here, what you see is Duck Larange is in Jupiter Mercury. So it means his soul is strapped in the backseat of Jupiter's car. Imagine something like a Hummer. Yeah, because a Jupiter is a big benefic planet, Mr. Bling Bling in a way. Well, he can be spiritual as well, but we know this is not so much the side for Duck Larange. But Mercury is driving. So what it means is we need to look where Jupiter is placed and where Mercury is placed and the houses that they rule. So here we see Jupiter for Duck Larange is in the second house. And remember, the second house deals with what? Money, finances, wealth, and riches. When Jupiter is in the second house, he is well known for being able to bring wealth because he's a wealth generator anyway. And when he's in the second house, he can potentially do that and even more. Now, we know he's not a multi-billionaire like he pretends to be, but he's certainly rich. Yeah. But he's also been bankrupt several times. If you look here, he's got Chiron here close to, let me just check to see where that Chiron is. Yeah, his Chiron is at 21 degrees, 48 minutes, very close to that Jupiter. Chiron is what? The wounded healer. It shows where we've received a wound or wounds in life, either mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, or financial. He's had the whole lot. Let's not forget, Duck Larange was what? Bankrupt about 6 times. What's added to that bankruptcy is Neptune. Neptune is known as the great dissolver. Neptune can deal with opulent wealth as well, yachts. You know, if we think like I did in my book, my new book on astrology, I talked about Saudi wealth, how Neptunian it was. It deals with gas, money, oil, but also Neptune also deals with pharmaceuticals as well, drink, drugs, alcohol, illusions and delusions. Both of these planets are the rulers of Pisces. So Jupiter is the original ruler of Pisces, which is Trump's 8th house. And this is important. I want you to remember that because the 8th house is shame, disgrace, and sex, death, and rock and roll, and all sorts of other stuff. Neptune is the co-ruler, the modern ruler of Pisces. They are both together. Neptune can deal with what? Illusions and delusions. Neptune can also create a fortune, but also dissolve one as well. So when you put that energy together there with Chiron, is it any wonder that many times Duck Larange has had his fortunes what? Dissolved. Maybe it's coming back again. Yeah. He has also enjoyed what? Great opulent wealth. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. Venus deals with vehicles, but also boats. So what I describe is whenever I see Neptune in a powerful combination, it often can describe yachts. Yeah. Duck Larange has had some yachts and he's sold some off to people and blah, blah, blah. He's only managed to keep the plane just about. Yeah. So here is in his second house. The second house deals with money and speech. It also deals with values. So when you've got the planet of illusions and delusions in the second house of speech, Jupiter is also very expansive and bombastic and is also the 5th house lord, which means giving consultation and advice to others. And it also deals with the children as well. You can see, and it's also the 8th house lord. This means his capacity for lying is extraordinary. If he should so choose. He could also tell the truth as well. He could also tell spiritual truths. But we know 9.999 times out of 10, he doesn't. Yeah. So here we can see here, this is what? The big lie. Yeah. It's the big lie, of course. You've got 2 expansive planets here. Neptune, I also call one of the spellcasters. One of the most incredible planets for casting spells is Neptune. And when you consider that his moon, which is also what? The mind, is in the 12th sign of the 13th sign of the zodiac, Ophiuchus, which is also what? The cult leader. Is it any wonder he's so effective at bamboozling or seducing, convincing? Look how many people have ruined themselves for this man, and they still keep coming, lining up like plebs, yeah, for more of the same treatment. So I wanted to explain that. Now, if we go back here to the moon and to Ketu, now, as you know, I call Rahu gobble gobble because Rahu is the head without the body, the dragon's head without the body. It can eat and eat and eat and speak even endlessly because it keeps falling out, yeah, this way. So it's never satisfied. K2 is the body without a head. K2 is mute. So, but K2 has the ability to know everything without saying a word. K2 is also very intuitive, but I call him snip snip. He cuts things away. K2 is the moksha karka. So which means liberation from this world, yeah, not giving a damn about material possessions and all of that kind of stuff. K2 also deals with conquered land and the past, and he's also associated with the flag, yeah, because where you conquer land, you put up the flag. So actually K2 can also deal, ironically, with rises, sudden rises in life. Now, we can also argue as well, Duck Larange has had some sudden rises. He was able to basically fluke his way to the presidency. Literally, I think he was shocked. He was shocked. You see the look of shock on his face and was like, oh my God, this has actually happened. However, when a person is not following a spiritual path or a path of righteousness or enlightenment, or at least trying to do their best, yeah, K2 can be a very horrific planet. I mean, horrific. K2 is also known as the hottest planet, believe it or not, even hotter than the sun, because Ketu is like a black hole. K2 has that silent but violent energy. K2 wants to see us spiritually grow, yeah, because he wants to give us moksha. In many ways, you could say Rahu is the yoga karka of Maya, which is the illusion here. Rahu loves the world. He loves wealth, fame, sex, drugs, rock and roll, all of them. Well, it's not all necessarily naughty, but he likes the naughty stuff. Yeah, the drugs, everything like that. And he loves Maya. Part of his role is to trip us up so that we come back, we create karma, we come back again. Now, that's not necessarily always a bad thing because, you know, we've got to work stuff out here. The soul needs to grow. But K2 is not into any of that. When K2 wants to spiritualize us, think of how we kind of become more spiritualized in life. It's often through what? Loss. We lose someone dear to us, or we lose something, or we're separated from something. K2, like Saturn, is a very separating force. That's why I call him snip snip. He literally cuts things away. So what does it mean when K2 is with the moon? Now, the moon represents the mind and the emotions, but also represents what? The mother. The mother. We know that Trump, Duck Larange, had a very difficult relationship with his mother. And that really does affect a person in life. If we have difficult relationships with the father, that can boost the rebellious side, you know, the not wanting to follow rules, regulations, etc. Because in many ways, the father can represent society. But the mother is the heart. The heart. The mother is the foundation of the psyche itself. We all, well, maybe we don't all know, but if a child is not cuddled when it's born, when it's not held close to the mother in any shape or form or whatever, the baby will die. This is well known. The child will die. If there is a difficulty in the bonding with the mother, it can cause a huge amount of psychological, spiritual, and emotional distress in that person. One of the things that happened with Trump was that the bonding process with his mother got interrupted because she had a mental episode, which can be shown here by the K2 with the moon. But I think she had a miscarriage. I think that was for the one, and she had to go to hospital. And you know, it really didn't work. I'm not sure if Trump saw it. I can't remember. I don't know what Mary said in the book. But either way, there was traumatic experiences with the mother. K2, snip, snip. Separation from what? The moon. The mother can also affect the mind. Look at the degrees. The moon is at 28 degrees and 5 minutes. K2 is at 27 degrees 41 minutes. That's what I call a perfection. They're within a degree and a half of each other. He was born on an eclipse. And it shows the mother struggled with her mental health, and also as well, she struggled with her status. I think, wasn't she a cleaner or something like that? I can't remember. Not that there's nothing wrong with that job. Many people have been cleaners, but it shows that she had her struggles. The mother had struggles because K2 is like a whirlpool. For all Leo ascendants, the moon becomes the lord of the 12th house. Why is that important? What does the 12th house deal with? I'll read it off here. So it deals with escape and endings and beginnings. It's like the world card. It deals with loss, foreign lands, secrets, holidays overseas, confusion, spiritual retreats, hospitals, foreign income, prisons, secret affairs, bed pleasures, expenses, hidden enemies, endings, watery places. It also deals with indirect income, royalties, foreign lands, foreign interests. Can even deal with espionage. It can also deal with backhander money as well. And like I said, it can also do with hospitals, prisons, yeah, and foreign lands. Even exile is also the 12th house. I refer to the 12th house as the land of far, far away. How am I doing on time? Let me just see here. I want to try and not to make this video too long. Oh, God, it won't move. Never mind. I'll stick with where it is. So one can understand here, if we count round, because we always count like clockwise on here, this is the first house. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Do you remember I spoke about stelliums have emphasis? Dr. Orange has 3 planets in the 12th house. Here you can see as well why he struggled also as well with marriage. Venus is the planet of marriage, and it's there with Saturn, yeah? And Saturn is what? Restrictions. Duties, hard work, hard graft. It can affect someone's love life. Yeah, it doesn't prevent marriage, but it can mean that the marriages are challenging. Here you see Pluto is here as well in the nakshatra called Astrologers, which means the entwiner, the embracer, never letting go. What's interesting with Pluto is that Pluto acts like a steroid, is said to act like a steroid, boosting or exaggerating whatever planets it's with. Venus is the planet of wealth and luxury. Let's not forget that. She also has higher octaves of nurturing, a gift of prophecy and stuff like that. But we know the nurturing aspect with Dr. Orange, probably not so great. It's also in the sign of Cancer, which also means what? Mother. Here it can show that the mother might be hospitalized at some point, because you see here Venus also deals with women as well, the moon in particular, but we see the separation from the mother energy repeating again. Shows, yeah, strife. But there is more. Venus, particularly when a person has children, man or woman, Venus represents all women from girlhood to childhood, can even represent the mother, but it's traditionally represented by the moon. But Venus is all females, girlhood to childhood. When a person has children, Venus becomes daughters. Daughters. The daughter is in the 12th house, yeah, which you can see here. Who, of course, is this on this? Well, we're not talking about Tiffany, yeah, we're talking about Ivanka. Yeah, she's the eldest daughter, Ivanka. So it can mean that the daughter can have connections with foreign lands. Saturn is the planet of governments all around the world. Ooh, Ivanka maybe has connections with governments abroad. Remember I said the 12th house is the land of far, far away. This can also be a house of diplomacy. It has a lot to do with politics because that can also be the envoy. Many, many politicians have planets in the 12th house because you have to deal with what? Foreign lands, with international diplomacy. If we look here, Pluto deals with the extremes, god of the underworld. He can deal with extreme debt or extremes of wealth. He was the original god of wealth, was Pluto / Hades, god of the underworld. Why? Because much of wealth comes from the earth. Gems, minerals, oil, coal, fossil fuels, all of that stuff. None of the Industrial Revolution or the modern world could have happened. Well, history could have gone a certain way, but let's just say some of those people were bought off or just bumped off. Let's just put it that way. Otherwise, if we'd all followed Tesla, we'd all have free energy and we wouldn't be having this crises that we're having now. But anyway, Pluto is that planet of crises, but it can also deal with extreme wealth. So think what's happened with the daughter, Ivanka, has got an extreme form of wealth from what? A foreign land. That 2 billion, yeah, that Jared got. Mars deals with sons. Mars deals with siblings and brothers in particular, but Mars is sons. So here, this is not only talking about his Eric and Don Jr., this would also be Jared, because marriage becomes what? Son-in-law. It can also show how the son will benefit from the father. Donald Trump is the what? The father-in-law. And do you see how these things work? Anyway, I digress. The point is this. It means wives and daughters can also be a source of loss for Duck L'Orange. You remember Ivana? Yeah? Do you remember she said what she said? She said, don't get angry, get everything. She said that, didn't she? She said, don't get angry, get everything. She's even been quoted in films for that. So you could see that heavy loss there. And in many ways, Trump never got over it. Yeah, because he wanted her wit and her intelligence. Because remember, she was running the casinos, all of this stuff. Let's not forget 12th house also deals with losses. Yeah, lots of losses associated with wives and the divorces and all of that stuff and the property and all the other stuff. But now this can also apply to Ivanka, particularly as Ivanka is also a mother, which again reinforces that energy of the sign of Cancer. So it means Donald could lose at the hands of a daughter, which is probably what? Ivanka, who's had to do what? Throw her brothers and everyone under the bus so that she may survive, because she's what? A mother, and she's obviously thinking about her kids. You see how it all interacts? Saturn is also a separating force as well, as I've said. So this can also mean what? Divorce. It can also mean separation from the daughter, but let's not forget, when Saturn was over here in Capricorn between January 30th, 2020 up until January 16th, 2023, he changed on the 17th. It means that Saturn was going through Trump's 6th house, which deals with health and healing and overcoming obstacles, battles. When transiting Saturn began to aspect himself, Ivana was found at the bottom of the stairs. Remember that one? Yeah, that transit, Pluto is what? Planet of death as well. Saturn can be a planet of death. It can mean death of the wife. Yeah, the first wife. Do you see how it kind of works together? I know I'm going into all this detail here, but the point is taking this back to the moon and to K2. K2, snip, is with the moon, which is the 12th house lord. So what will happen is when he goes into his Jupiter K2, which is already happening, he officially goes in on the 22nd of October 2023, which you've heard me say ad nauseam. But we need to understand that energy actually begins a while before. It doesn't always wait exactly to that time. So that energy has already begun, but look what happened. His court case with Georgia has been what? Moved forward. You remember all of this was supposed to happen in March. And I was there saying, October's not looking great. What happened? Cheese Bro got his case moved forward to the 23rd of October, one day after the energy officially manifest, but it was already manifesting. Now he's faced what the losses in court with with the judge ruling against him. So what we have here, when he goes into that K2, where Jupiter K2, the houses that Jupiter rules are already active, but wherever Jupiter is and where K2 is particularly pertinent. Jupiter sits in his second house of money, like I said, wealth, finances, but it rules the fifth house of giving consultation and advice to others, creativity, but also children. His sons are implicated. Ivanka has managed to obviously get herself off the hook. But Jupiter is also the ruler of the eighth house. So for Leo ascendants, Jupiter can sometimes be a tricky planet because he rules the eighth house, which is what? Shame and disgrace, sudden transformations, can also deal with death, losses, all of this stuff. But now when he goes into Jupiter K2, K2's position is going to become much stronger. It's already started to happen already and will affect the house that it's in and the planet that it's with, that it's in. Let's count round to K2 from Trump's first house. 1, 2, 3, 4. K2 is with the 12th house lord, but what's the fourth house? The fourth house deals with the receptive heart. I call it the heart chakra. This literally can deal with the heart. The mother, ancestors, history, vehicles, storehouse, happiness, things that are underground, emotions, honesty, or even dishonesty, comforts and luxuries, master degrees and doctorates. Well, we know Dr. Orange didn't get any of those, but never mind. Homeland, it also deals with the stomach and the breast, and it also deals with vehicles and real estate. Ding, 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 ding. Snip, snip. Going through real estate. What's happening in New York? They're talking about what? The properties. The judge has already found him guilty because he's like, you lied. You lied. Fourth house also deals with luxuries and comforts. Snip, snip is being activated there, and he's there with the 12th house lord. So it means this activation of the Jupiter K2 activates Trump's fifth house, giving consultation and advice to others and the children. His eighth house of shame and disgrace and transformation. It activates his fourth house of real estate, luxuries and goods, stuff like that. It also activates his 12th house because K2 is with the 12th house lord. Who's in his 12th house? Saturn, planet of karma, duties, responsibilities, restriction, death, jail, stuff like that. With what? Venus, the wife, the daughter, Ivanka. With Pluto, which can deal with what? Extreme wealth, but extreme debts. Duck Larange has a ton of what? Debts up to his bloody eyeballs. Also, what's going to happen is that K2, if we look here, this is where the transits are, this is where the planets are right now. Rahu stands at 00 degrees and 45 minutes. So does K2. Yeah, they're always exactly opposite. They move backwards. So that means Rahu is going to go from Aries to Pisces, not Aries to Taurus. K2 is going to go Libra to Virgo. Yeah, not Virgo to Libra. So guess what? What happens on the 29th of November 2023? The nodes change sign, and Rahu is going to go into Duck Larange's 8th house, which deals with what? Shame and disgrace. And he's going to what? Blow it up. He's going to bring what? Transformation. Many forms of transformation. Some of them can be good, but in the 8th house, That's a tricky one. Yeah, having Rahu in the 8th, unless you're a very spiritual person and you really are on your path, it's a tricky one. Yeah, or you're exceptionally good at business or whatever, or you got some stocks and investments. But either way, that's a tricky energy. So do we see it's all piling up? So all of this now, what the other astrologer was saying was, because with the transits at the time, it was like Trump was going to be getting an extraordinary boost. I think literally on the day of the election. And this person was saying, well, it looks like, you know, he could win. They said, I'm not sure how he's going to do it, but it looks like he could win. Now, what I'm saying is it would take a miracle, because this is how I see things going. Dr. will enter his Jupiter Venus. Now, Jupiter and Venus are not friends in the canon of Vedic astrology. He will enter his Jupiter Venus on the 29th of September 2024. Now, you can imagine the election is in November 2024. But we always look, what is the house that Venus, what is the house a planet rules, and where does it sit? So for all Leo ascendants, Venus rules the 3rd house of speech. This is also why Leos can sometimes have seductive speech. Venus is a planet of seduction, smoothness, sweet talking. Dr. is obviously very good at that. He's managed to convince many people, and he's not always using force, is he? He's managing to what? Seduce. This is also one of his dark arts. And that is given to Leos by Venus, because Venus is, the 3rd house is also a house of speech and communication. This is why he's so inventive with all the stuff that he comes up with. But for all Leos, Venus also rules, and that's Libra, by the way. Venus also rules what? Taurus, which is the 10th house, which is the career. So Venus is the career planet for all Leo ascendants. And I can understand where the other astrologer was coming from, seeing this potential rise of the career, because Venus, by certain transits, was opposed the Jupiter, which would be in the 10th house at that time around the election. Because let's not forget, the planets are moving forward. Jupiter will enter sidereal Taurus soon. I think it's March or April of next year. I can't remember exactly. But the point is, he will be there, which is Trump's what? 10th house. However, we already know that the judge has found Dr. guilty, or his company guilty of fraud. That is not going to change. That's why I sent that video where it was describing the whole thing. So this cannot be potentially a period of gain for him right now. Yeah, because he's essentially going to what? Lose his properties. K2 has taken the buzzsaw out and is going to potentially lop off a lot of Dr. Larange's property. And this is going to happen soon. We're not going to have to wait a long time to find out that result. Because remember as well, his K2 is what? Is with the 12th Lord. The 12th Lord can deal with losses. Who's in there? Saturn, Venus, Pluto. It can mean what? Extreme debts, losses of comforts and luxuries. Yeah, all of the stuff that's come out about what he's done abroad. Here we can see he definitely sold the documents abroad. 12th house, the land of far, far away. Saturn, governments. Venus, tangible assets. But we can see here how this is turning out for the pickle side for Dr. Larange, because K2 is wanting to spiritualize Dr. Larange by separating him from what? His sense of security. Oops, his fortunes, his money. Yeah, that's going to be active. Also as well, K2, when on the 29th of November, is going to move into Dr. Larange's 2nd house, which is money, and it's going to cross over what? That Jupiter, which can mean losses. If he were a spiritual person and he could hold a Bible the right way up, yeah, then this would be a very spiritualizing time for him, and he could maybe transcend and rise to another level because he would have a spiritual enlightening. But we know he's what? Very materialistic. So K2's going to want to do what? Cut that away. K2 going through his second house, going over Jupiter, which in of itself is a planet of wealth, and Chiron, the wounded healer, and Neptune, which is a planet that can deal with colossal losses. Neptune can dissolve a fortune on his own. So you see, you have to be in the higher energies of these planets to reap their blessings. So K2 is with the natal moon in the natal position, but by transit, he is here, right next to this Jupiter. That Jupiter is already feeling the energies. Mars is just here, has just come over. So there's a K2 Mars conjunction right now in his third house. Third house deals with what? Speech as well. But it also deals with text, messaging. What's he doing? All of his stuff on social media. His mouth really could get him into trouble, although it's not happened yet. So what I'm seeing here is this. By the time the election comes around, Trump could already have lost his fortune. And let's not forget, because he's in the shadow of Taurus and very materialistic, that in many ways would be devastating for him and would also fulfill the Kala Sarpa yoga of great ups and great downs. Yeah, so he's been the president. It's like a roller coaster. So what's going to be next? The downward sweep. It's unlikely that he's going to hop up again because Kala Sarpa yoga is like that. So he hit the peak with the presidency. I think we're seeing what? The downward sweep. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. The only way that Trump could ever be president, like I said, it would have to be a miracle. The only way, because Venus is the only planet that picks up strength in the 12th house. However, we need to look at the dignity. She's not considered to do well in the sign of Cancer. Becomes too emotional there. If this was in Libra or Taurus, one of her own signs, or Pisces, where Venus is exalted, then you could say, maybe he'll get away with it. But no, the sign of Cancer also deals with real estate as well, security. What I think will happen is when his Jupiter-Venus dasher comes in, this Venus will be powerfully triggered, and that could actually be the time where Duc Larange either goes to prison or house arrest or is hospitalized or he flees to foreign lands. It's going to be one of those. I still think he might flee to foreign lands when he really realizes that the wheels have come off. The only way is he could be president if he becomes president from prison. Yeah, either from prison or from exile or whatever. Either way, it's going to have a 12th house flavor to it. But I mean, is that even possible in the United States? If it's possible, maybe there could just be some bizarre thing that happens that way. But I'm more inclined to think that from around the 27th of September 2024, this is really where he could literally be in jail. It could even be sooner than that. We'll have to see what K2 does. Because, if K2 takes out the chainsaw, it's over. It's over. So that's my perspective on it. Yes, Jupiter will be going through Trump's 10th house, which can be a benefic, but it will also be crossing over. It will also be with Uranus, which is sudden shocks and surprises. Could it be some sudden shock for the presidency? I'm not sure, because all of this stuff is already starting to come true. By November, Duc Larange is likely to be what? Much more depleted rather than elevated. And you know what it's like when you lose your money in certain circles, you're yeah. Even how Trump feels about himself. This is why he's so angry and calling out for retribution and death and blah, 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 all these people, because he understands once he loses his money, that's it. I think there was one time, I don't know which bankruptcy it was, because he's had about 6. He's had more bankruptcies than children, as far as we're aware. Yeah. But one particular bankruptcy, he was talking about, because he, you know, when you were negative. And he was talking about how he walked a person who was homeless on the street, and they had a few nickels and dimes. And he was like, I looked at that person and I realized they had more money than I did. A rare moment of insight for Dr. Ranj, yeah? But because of that Kala Sarpa Yoga, he what? Bounced back. But now I think this is the downward one. So I'm not sure Venus can rescue Dr. Ranj from either hospital, prison, or exile, because she's with Saturn. And she's not in the best dignity. And she's also with Pluto, which is what? God of the underworld, which can also mean what? Being put in the clink or death, or, you know, this is, I would say it's quite a risky and dangerous time for Dr. Ranj. Yeah, this is not easy stuff. But it would literally take winning from prison. And even then, what are they going to do? Bust it? And do you know what I mean? The complexities of it are just extraordinary. So I think when this kicks in, K2 is going to be chopping away at the wealth and all that stuff. And when the Venus aspect comes in, activating his 3rd house and his 10th house, but she sits in the 12th. So that can mean what? Loss of voice, communication abilities, and what? The career, because the 10th house and the 3rd house lord goes to the 12th, which can mean the ending of those things. And she's sandwiched between two malefics, Saturn and Pluto. So I'm not sure if this will be a resurrection job. The way I see that is, if he's still around, I see that more as exile. I see that more as exile, as a best case scenario for him. So you need to make sure that your passport, Dr. Ranj, is in date and there's plenty of petrol in that aeroplane, because you might have to fly yourself to some foreign lands where if they will keep you, yeah, who knows what you might have to sell to get all of that stuff there. So I will stop the share there. Let's just minimize that down. Oh, look, I've just gone over. It always ends up being an hour, does it? But I hope that was interesting for you. I will stop it there. And again, if you'd like a consultation with me, then of course you can visit my website. Go to hogarthglobalastrology.com. It will say the archetypal blueprint.com, but it's still me. Don't worry. And please don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell notification. It really helps support the channel. And of course, watch an advert or two if you don't mind as well. I'm pruning, you know, sometimes I get ad spammed, but anyway, I will leave it there. I hope you found that interesting, and I hope that explained a few things. Trump back in the presidency, oh, it would take a miracle, but at least now I've explained what my rationale is much more looking like prison, hospital, or exile, or even, but we don't talk about those things so much. I will leave it there. Thank you so much for the support, and I will see you all on Thursday. Fry Up is my next one. All right. Bye-bye for now. Cheers.